great to be back in the studio once again. And, I'm smiling because I am joined by a very special guest by the name of Mr. Patrick Lawson. And Mr. Lawson is actually an individual that was voted London's happiest bus driver. And now my name is Hilary, right? And which means in Latin, cheerful, happy. But I think I've actually met someone who beats that record. I haven't been given an award for that, So how are you today, first and foremost?
Yes, hi, Hilary. I'm absolutely wonderful. I'm doing great. Thank you for asking.
Sure. And, as soon as I walked into the studio, you had this massive smile, big voice, and I thought, oh my goodness, he's gonna be taking my job soon. But you weren't always this happy. You weren't always this cheerful. Tell us about your background.
Well, Hilary, yes, it wasn't always that happy, and I look back now and realise that it wasn't. I was brought up in a strict home, and a strict Nigerian home, religious home, and I was put down a lot, told that I was naughty, I wasn't good. And I began to believe it, because this is coming from people that, my parents, my mother, because my father wasn't around. He died of alcohol. He abused alcohol. I was sent to Nigeria by my mum because she says we were bad, we were naughty, and we needed discipline. I was there for 3 years, and there were good times, but a lot of the memories was bad. Nigerian discipline, sticks, whips. Even thinking about it, it's hard to think about it.
Sure.
My mother came and brought me and my brother back to England. We went to a school. We was, at the end of secondary school. We came back at 14, and I was bullied at school. Got into fights. Eventually I was expelled from school, and I was very bitter. Now I think that the abuse I received in Nigeria, the beatings and the negativity at home shaped me, but I didn't realise it then. I was very bitter. As I said, I got expelled from school. The social services tried to help me, but I thought that no, by me refusing to do my exams, I was hurting the government.
Sure.
Or the school system, but I wasn't. Now I realise I was hurting myself.
Sure. So for you, academically, you were bullied. You didn't really take to education. You were already, on the path of almost destruction because you were already rebelling against authority in a way, if I could say that. What sort of company were you keeping at that point in time?
Well, it's funny because my mother wanted us to call her new husband Dad. We didn't want to call him Dad. In our minds, he's not our dad. So because of that, we had to leave the house. So I left the house, met friends on the street, was homeless, got into drugs.
So at what age were you homeless?
16. I was 16, I was homeless. To me, it was exciting. Looking back now, but then
yes,
it was exciting.
So, most people are, I guess they, in the movies and stuff, when you see a young person saying, "Oh, I'm going to run away, I'm leaving home," it looks exciting. But at that time, surely you must have thought, I need to plan this out a bit more before you actually took that leap.
No, the only plan was me and my brother went to the police station, Stoke Newton police station at that time with our suitcases, told the police that we've been kicked out, and they said, well, what are we going to do about it? And we just said, pfft. So we opened our suitcase, took out blankets, put it on the bench, and just went to sleep.
No way.
And then we got woken up by social services. My mother took my brother back because he was still 15, but I was allowed to leave, so they put me in a hostel, and I quickly was kicked out of there for bringing a girl in. So we roaming the streets, but as I said, I met with people, escalated to to other things. It's like, you know, when they say you remember your first love, you know, I remember my first crime.
Sure.
It was a little mini and in St. Paul's, and, you know, I jiggled a lock just like I was taught to do, and it opened and boom, and that was it. That was the beginning.
So your first crime was stealing a car.
Yeah.
Right.
Joyriding.
How old were you then?
I was 16.
Okay.
It all happened at 16. I was kicked out at 16, committing crimes at 16, and getting arrested at 16. I got arrested at my first crime I got arrested for. I got 9 months in prison.
Then what did you do after you got released from that sentence?
Well, as I said, I did 9 months, came out a month, got 3 years, came out a month, got another 3 years, came out about nearly a month, gave a false name, so I got arrested with no record, then I got 9 months. From the beatings in Nigeria, I had anger. There was no room to feel fear or, oh my God, I'm in prison.
Or think about consequences.
Yeah, or think about consequences, because I think I was angry at life then.
So you are known as London's happiest bus driver. At what point did you get to in your life whereby you hit the rock bottom and you said, okay, I've got to now pick up a trade, you know, or when did someone do something which completely changed the way you saw yourself and felt that, you know, you needed as much for yourself as much as this person wanted for you?
Well, it's funny you're saying that, because there was a time when I had a girlfriend and I was doing my ducking and diving, and we were separate. We became separate at that time, and something said to me to find out where she is. So I did, and I phoned her friend, and her friend told me she was at church. I was thinking, church? What's she doing in church? And so, and at the time, because I said we were separate, so I was in Wolverhampton at the time, and I wasn't going to do no business. But then all of a sudden I just had this urge to get to church. Yeah, so that period I actually became a Christian. My life changed, and for some reason I must have thought, or we both thought that, you know what, let's get married. So we actually got married in church. We already had a son, and in marriage we had a lovely daughter, and life actually was rosy at that time. It was quiet. I was enjoying Christianity, enjoying church. Then one day I was went to the job centre, and a bus company was advertising for drivers. All I knew was I love driving, and this is, okay, it's a big bus, 10 tons and, you know, 14 feet, God.
You should be telling me.
Yeah, I'm not that much of a nerd, you know what I mean? You know,
Sure.
You know, because some guys up there know the engine, the
right.
But church got in the way, because then the church people would say that, Patrick, you're not meant to work on Sundays. And I'm thinking, but hold on, I've got a job, I have a wife and children to look after. And this is why I think the church got it wrong. Because as far as I'm concerned, I saw myself as a roadman, someone who only knew about madness, you know. And now these churches brought me into their church, and they have not given me a mentor to help to guide me in this life, in this new path.
Sure.
You know, they were telling me things like, when I asked them questions, they say, oh, trust God. What does that mean? I didn't trust. I was a survivor. You know, I trusted myself. You know what I mean? You know, the only thing I ever knew was being told what to do as well, because of my years in prison. Officers unlocking the door, slop out time, shower time, dinner time, you know, make your bed, go to the gym. You understand?
Sure, that routine.
The routine. So now to come out into the big wide world, and to be just let out without no guide, you know, because they wanted me to be a Christian. And I did it, I done the prayer thing, done the, you know, but then the life thing, I didn't know what life was. Didn't know how to live life. So they told me I shouldn't work on a Sunday, so I gave up my job.
Wow.
So what do I do? You know what I mean? Then I went back to the job again. They took me back, and I give it up again. Anyway, I got sacked the third time because I was angry. Oh, my dad passed away. He was an alcoholic. 2001, he passed away from pneumonia and alcoholism. So I didn't realize that this was affecting me. So this is where I actually met up with harder drugs. And
things took a turn for the worse.
Terribly, yes. Bam, I'm homeless again, you know, roaming the streets, finding money to score and to use, living a life worse than a rat, actually. You know, rats scurry through the dark corners. I don't know if rats smoke drugs. You know what I mean?
I don't know.
But, you know, I'm just imagining, you know,
How
worse, low.
One has to
Jumping on buses to try to get from A to B, deceiving people. I even got to the stage, I was doing things that I never thought I would do. I deceived my mum. I lied to her that I had to buy insurance for a car I didn't have, so I can get money off her to score, to buy drugs. I was stealing, doing things that I never thought I would do. And I'd got to the dark period. Dark period. Then my children were teenagers. They were living with me at that time because their mother was sick. And I was taking their money and using it to score drugs. I was also at that time selling The Big Issue because I was homeless for a very long time.
Sure.
So that's how I got introduced to The Big Issue. And I sold The Big Issue for 5 years. Have with my children, still using secretly. And
I mean, how did you get to the point of I need to stop using? Because obviously that was having quite a detrimental effect on your life.
Well, I didn't know it was having a detrimental effect on my life. There were periods of my life where I thought I wished I was dead. Because I remember a time when I stopped and I thought, how did I get here? How did I get here? I was a person who was against drug using. So I remember I was at a house using and I needed more. So I went across the road, there was a drug house there. And my past caught up with me. There was someone that I had a run-in with in the past, and he came into the house with his boys, and he recognised me, and then I was held hostage in a room, beaten, you know, taunted with drugs, beaten. And I felt to myself, I felt helpless. I couldn't do nothing, couldn't defend myself. I, as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to die. This is the night I was going to die. This is what I really, really, really believed. I was held in this house for nearly 4 hours, subjected to violence. I'm sure it's because of the drugs in my system. That's why I didn't really feel too much pain. And I remember praying or speaking to, like, God, if you can help me out of this. I'm sure a lot of us have done this.
In danger,
if you can help me out of this,
sure.
You know, I will fix up. So what happened is that the guy who was attacking me, he wanted to stab me. He said it, I'm going to stab you to death, blah, blah, blah. And he said, stay right there, he's gone outside. And then I just had this clear, like a voice or a vision that I must jump out the window. So I've looked and I saw the window and I've obeyed it straight away. I've jumped up into the bed, dived out the window, bounced back in because it didn't break. Oh my God. I did it again, bam, gone straight through, got to the hospital. I decided to come clean with the hospital staff that, you know, I was an addict, I needed help. So they, you know, I just followed because they led me to detox, got on a program. Slowly, it was a slow process. It wasn't no rush thing.
Of course, I mean, addiction of that nature is never easy to just, because obviously you have your withdrawal symptoms as well. Your drawbacks.
Yes. And in that process, I actually met up with an organisation called NA, Narcotics Anonymous. I mean, I can never praise the help of that organisation enough. Because that's where I saw that, because in the drug services, you still see people using and messed up. But in NA, there were people that were saying that they were clean 20 years, 30 years, 10 years, 5 years, 1 week. I didn't believe that anyone could be clean from using hard drugs.
Sure.
And I would go and use. Every time I think I'll go home, get in bed, strip naked, in my bed, white knuckling it, and then I'll say, hit the fuck it button. Sure. Excuse my term.
No, but
that's the button we called it, the F it button.
Sure.
Get out of bed, put my clothes back on, and go and call a man. That's, you know what I mean? It controlled me like that. And then I was told in NA, when you feel that, just tell yourself, you know what? I won't smoke today, I'll smoke tomorrow. I won't smoke today, I'll smoke tomorrow. And do you believe, I couldn't believe it, it worked.
Wow.
Because that desire to smoke left. Because whoever I was talking to, my subconscious or whatever, it believed me. Because now I've learned that every time I was feeling a certain way, I would always run to use. So my subconscious knew this, or whatever. I don't know what it was. Conscious mind knew it. So
that was your default reaction to any stress
yes,
you were undergoing.
Thank you. You've hit the nail on the head. So so I kept coming back. I kept going to. Listen, I kept just filling my days with NA, going to meetings all over London. They news. You know what I mean, following and listening to people's stories of recovery. That is possible. Sure. People who had lived lives like mine. Not just I smoke cigarettes and now I'm, no, people who had lived worse lives than me.
Sure.
Prison,
care, homelessness,
care, abuse, homelessness, even worse.
Yes. I mean, Patrick, having heard that, it's taken me back quite a bit, but, there is a silver lining to this story, hence why we're sat in the studio.
Yes.
How did you then become the London happiest bus driver, having gone through all of that?
Well, Hilary, thinking about it now, it was a difficult period, but going through it, it was just like normal, because I was used to that life. But thinking about it now, it was a difficult period. I followed instruction, from the drug services, the detox, and also going to the NA. And I just followed instruction and went from step to step. And I felt now, after about 2, 3, 4 years, that I needed to earn an income. Many people were going into the drug services as support workers. Even though I knew I was the person that loved people, I just didn't want to work with.
That's the status quo for people that have gone through recovery.
I couldn't.
Sure.
Because I just saw myself going back into smoking, and I just did not want to, I had a few months under my belt, or even years actually under my belt, and, I just wanted to work. And I remember, so I went on to another organisation which helped to get ex-homeless people and ex-addicts into work.
Right.
And I was given a support worker. Her name was Amanda, lovely person. She worked for SHP, Single Homeless Project. A lovely human being. I told her that I have a bus driving license, but it's dormant, I don't know. She said, would you like to go back into bus driving? I said, well, yeah, I wouldn't mind, but, and she said, don't worry, leave it to me. Da, 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 da. Anyway, so she'd call me, and so one Friday she called me and she said to me, Patrick, because she was as lively as me.
Sure.
She said, Patrick, I found you the perfect job. And I'm like, oh, okay. She said, yes, it's a bus driver. No, it's community transport. All you have to do, and I must have sounded like, she said, Patrick, all you got to do is turn up, right? And on Monday, she arranged, so I turned up on Monday with what I needed to take up there. And because of my fear because I've got a criminal record, and this is community transport, which is taking vulnerable kids to school. Because I don't know the criteria, the DBS criteria.
Sure.
Because, my cases was like violence and robberies and,
Your past was colourful.
Yeah,
and you thought that would be a hindrance.
Yes, I'm sure many people feel that, So I told the guy, this lovely, I said to him, I've got a criminal record. I told him straight, I said, I've got a criminal record. Would that be a problem? And he said to me, well, not really, but if it's bothering me, then I could go on the buses, because they don't do checks.
CRBs.
Yeah, CRBs
or
on the
DBS,
buses.
yes.
You know what I mean? And I says, okay, yeah, because, I wanted to go on the buses anyway. And, so buses, everything's expired, and, because I thought I'd have to go to retake a driving test again.
Sure.
But he says, no, just medical. That's all I did. They put me through everything, the medical, the extra qualifications I had to do. I done them and I passed them. And then I remember, because we was in training and I was with a few guys and girls, and I just wanted to get out there. And I said, why are you so eager? I just want to get out there, man. Just get out driving.
Sure.
Right? Somehow they would take them out to practice on the van. Somehow I missed that. Yeah? And so when I went on the bus, I had not driven a bus for 13 years. Yeah? 13 years. But what I did is that I downloaded a bus driving game.
Right, okay.
On the tablet I used to have. And I used to drive the bus on the tablet, right? Pull up at bus stop, pick up passengers, pull away. So I was put out on the bus with a seasoned driver first, yeah? On the 26th. Mm-hmm. And I was rearing to go. And then she got out of the cab to let me get in the driver's seat. And I got in the driver's seat. I knew what I was going to do, because I was reading positive books.
Sure.
You
already pictured it. You already put it out into the universe.
Yes, I was reading positive books.
Yes.
I knew about positive mental attitude. I knew about doing more in your job. If you're in a job, bring more to your job. Don't go to work and just do the minimum. Do more.
Absolutely.
So this is what these guys like Jim Rohn and Zig Ziglar was telling me. So I decided to do more. So I'm in a cab now. This lady's got out. I'm in a cab, and I've gone to the first bus stop. I've spun around like I do, and I've greeted my passengers. Good morning. Welcome on board. And they've come out and they'll be smiling. Oh, good morning. Every single passenger I greet, good morning. And then I would go on the tannoy and I'd say, good morning, everyone. Welcome on board your Route 26 to Waterloo. Thank you for travelling with CT Plus on behalf of Transport for London. My name is Patrick, and I just want to take this opportunity to wish you, and yes, I really do mean you, a very, very good day. And I would look out for them when they're getting off, and I'll say goodbye, have a great day. And as I see them on the road, because sometimes they even come to the front of my bus, and they're waiting for me to, and then they'll wave, and I'll wave at them, right? And the driver who was watching me, she'd say that, we'll see how long that'll last. You know what I mean? I used to be like that, and, and the passengers, they blame the passengers.
Sure.
And I was thinking, but obviously, I understand habit.
Yes.
And I thought, I ain't going to stop. If anything, I'm going to get better.
Absolutely.
Because it's habit. And that's what's happened. And what's happened is, I never done this to win any awards. I didn't do this to be nominated for anything or I just did it because everything up until then, up until becoming an addict was wrong. Sure. It led me down a dark and horrible path for years. Sure. what I learned brand new was something new. You know, if you want change, you've got to be the change. I can't change the government. I can't change the probation service. I can't change my wife. I can't, you know, if I want change, if I want my surroundings to change, I've got to be the change.
Absolutely.
And that was new teaching to me. And I thought, you know what, I need to do this because I've never done it before. And I've done it. And so I believe I'm sowing good seed. You know, I'm putting out good and I'm getting back good. So the passengers who not every bus driver, but some bus drivers are saying, oh, they're horrible. Well, it seems like they got all the horrible passengers because I never got no horrible passengers.
Sure, I'm sure.
You know what I mean?
Your passengers must be happy to hear that.
Because of the fact that my attitude,
Yeah.
I was getting calls from, you know, my company was telling me, oh, we've got a commendation for you from a passenger. We've got commendation for you from a passenger. I mean, within 8 months of me being employed, I'd received like 45
Wow.
commendations from passengers.
Wow.
Even the company said, wow. I said, they've never had this amount of commendations in the whole of the company started in 89. In the whole of, from 1989 to now.
That's incredible. So you literally made your mark in such a short space of time.
And all I was doing, I was reading positive books from people that was encouraging to me to live a better life. And I thought, you know what, I want to live a better life. Because up until then, the choices I made led me to prison, led me to using drugs.
How did you overcome those times when perhaps you came across those people that knew the old Patrick, or when you had that urge? You know, how do you cope on those sort of days?
Well, what it is that, and I do it today, because I learned about positive talking to yourself in a positive way. Because before, you know, if you do something bad, you'd say to yourself, oh, you're so stupid, Patrick. You know what I mean? Oh, look, you know what I mean? So I've learned not to tell myself I'm stupid. I'm not stupid. You know, and that's where, even though I call myself spiritual now, you know what I mean? I've chosen to be spiritual. I believe in God, but not in the context of a church. So now, the Bible that I know has come alive to me. It says that life and death is in the power of the tongue. So I remember I used to use this mouth to make people cry. And now I use this mouth to make people smile and happy.
We are Straightline.